This is an exclusive interview held on yourmachines.com. Today's guest is Reject Convenience. Some call him Anthony. He's a quickly rising YouTuber passionately bringing us the truth about technology and keeping people informed about their digital privacy. But is he truly who he says he is?
Actually, he's a really great guy. Let's learn a bit about his creative process and unique perspective on what it means to be real. Yeah, I guess starting off, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, that's a big question, I guess. I guess currently I'm most known for my YouTube channel, Reject Convenience, where I tell people that I use a dumb phone and you should read privacy policies. And that's been a blast to do. I've been so thrilled with the response to it. Of course, I've had the channel for, 12 years now? So it obviously didn't always exist in that state. I've always just kind of found a lot of joy in just making stuff. Videos. I mean, I think the first thing that got me into editing video was watching the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World when I was in high school.
Cool. Yeah.
And I was like, how did they do all of these visual effects? And so I downloaded a pirated version of After Effects and I started watching free YouTube videos on how to use it. And I was watching, people like Corridor Digital, Freddie Wong, and those guys just obsessing over how I could do all of this stuff. And it just got me hooked. I just never lost that spark.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that's a majority of what I'm known for, I would say.
Yeah.
But what I do otherwise, I garden. I love plants. I cannot get enough of plants.
Same here.
I draw sometimes, not super frequently anymore, actually. I'm going to be honest. YouTube has consumed my creative work.
Right.
I play the piano, which has been super fun. I played as a kid. And took lessons up until maybe middle school and then stopped for a while. I don't know why, but I picked it back up last year and it has been a blast. I've had so much fun. Remembering how to play by ear, in addition to also reading music. And something I always love doing is telling my wife to, hey, name a song. I want to try to learn it really quick, and she'll just do it. It's been a lot of fun. And every time, it comes up, she's always like, "How do you just do that?" And I was like, "I don't know. My brain's wired weird."
Oh, that's always cool seeing people do that live. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I tell you what. The next time I'm in an airport and there's a piano in there, that's what's going on.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. But that summarizes a good bit of what I do, I think.
What sort of led you to make more informative or educational videos? I know you mentioned Scott Pilgrim and Corridor Digital kind of got you into actually editing, making things look cool. But when it comes to informing people and educating people, what started that? Are there any inspirational figures for that?
I'm going to be honest. I don't completely know. My grandfather was a professor at a university for years and years, but way before I ever remember,
Right.
I was a kid,
Yeah. It's in the genes.
My mom always told me that I would be a great teacher, and I never totally grasped what she was talking about because I was so bad at school. I mean, I barely graduated, and I am convinced the only reason I did graduate on time was because the teachers liked me, and that was it.
Right.
I cannot believe for a moment that I actually did well enough in school to actually graduate. And then I'd toyed around with community college every once in a while, and it never stuck, and so it felt always strange to have that in the back of my head of my mom being convinced that I would be a great teacher when I can't. I felt like I couldn't traditionally learn things,
Right.
And it's so funny looking back on that now because I, in a weird way, am a teacher.
Yeah,
a very, very roundabout way, but But in regards to informing people specifically about technology, I worked in I've mostly worked in like tech support. A majority of what I did was that, and I learned a lot about. It wasn't just like fixing the computer itself. Like that's certainly a skill on its own, and I always respected people that were really good at it.
Right.
But it was something that like I just naturally fell into because I had always been tinkering with computers as a kid. I had broken things constantly and fixed them myself because
Of course.
I had to.
Yeah.
And in high school, I mean, I had teachers. I was helping them out with their computer stuff, and so it's always been there for me. But the thing that like I grasped onto the most in early tech support work was making sure that the people that you're working with don't feel dumb about what they've done.
Right.
It's something that I have seen countless times fumbled, and I get it. It's hard to learn that sometimes when you're so caught up in understanding how this technology works. It's really easy to oversee why other people don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I think that's true in anything. I think that's why we kind of find ourselves in this oversimplified narrative with everything, But with computers specifically, I loved working with like old ladies specifically because they were always so funny. And I don't want to make someone's grandma upset, so I was always very, chill and, hey, don't beat yourself up, every time somebody said, oh, I screwed this up. Oh, I'm so dumb. It's no, hang on. These things didn't exist not a decade ago, but like in their current state, they didn't.
Right.
They're constantly changing. I mean, even today, hearing about like all of these fancy new AI scams, those were not scams 5 years ago. That was not a category of scam that existed, right?
Yeah.
It's constantly evolving, and I've always been convinced that the right way to help people prevent that, because like, you want to be preventative with it. You want to try to help people avoid getting scammed in the first place. But the way to do that is not to call them stupid or that if it happened to them, they deserve it. That's not cool. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I've fallen for scams. Like, it absolutely happens, It's just how it works. People, like, scams are designed to manipulate people. That's the whole point of them.
Yeah.
And we are all people, so we are all susceptible to it eventually, right? So I think a lot of the like wanting to help people like learn technology came from that. And just wanting to make sure that like just giving the different narrative, I guess, like telling people that they're not stupid for not understanding it, telling them that they're correct. It is complicated stuff.
Yes.
Like, this is nonsensical that we have to deal with some of the things that we have to deal with.
Yes.
And I have found an enormous amount of success in helping people not only understand like what their computer is doing, but helping them prevent worse things from happening. And as the YouTube channel started to grow, I really wanted to make sure that that stuck in there,
Right.
Just making sure that like I get comments every now and again like, I already knew how VPNs worked. This was a waste of time. And it's like, this video wasn't for you then.
Yes, yeah.
Like, I appreciate the feedback, but I'm not making it for people who understand it. I'm making it for people who want to understand it. And if they want to go deeper and learn about all of the nightmare fuel that is networking and infrastructure like that, go for it. I've never liked that stuff.
Yeah.
I like my little code box. Thank you very much.
Nice.
but yeah, I think a lot of where that inspiration came from was just helping people, generally.
Right, right. That's nice. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned like in your videos, you don't want people to like feel stupid or anything when you're telling somebody about, complicated topics. Like what's your sort of workflow like with maybe writing a script in that case?
That's an amazing question.
Oh, thank you.
Never once did it cross my mind to make it entertaining.
Oh, really?
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I every single, like, I think the script that like ultimately kicked it off, was the original dumb phone video, which I didn't like totally script, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
It was more just like I just journaled what I was thinking and then recorded that,
Nice.
So that one wasn't quite that, and that was very early on in my ability to. I've never considered myself a good writer. It's something that I've always like struggled with. It's been kind of the. Have you ever watched Avatar: The Last Airbender?
Not the full thing, but yes, I have watched it.
So the idea of like the elements is that two of them are like more similar than others. Like, like air and water are very flowy and kind of work well in tandem, and you can learn it easier as an airbender to learn water bending. But then when you come to earth bending, rock, it's this hard, rigid, unnatural feeling thing. And I think it's a similar thing with my writing. It's like I can get it, and I've been getting better, I think, but it's not my natural instinct,
right?
And I've always thought that parallel was really good for that. Anyways, so the key points that I always keep in mind when I'm writing or even researching, I've dropped videos because I wasn't able to hit these points in the research, are, is this contributing to fear-mongering? And like, I need to be able to answer that question clearly.
Right.
Because a lot of, again, especially privacy related stuff, it is scary to hear if you've never heard it before. It is disturbing to know how much data Amazon, for example, collects about you when you just browse their website. You don't even need to buy anything. Yeah. And they still know a ton about you just based on how you browse their website. And that can come off as really creepy and horrifying. And I don't want to, like, I want people to be informed, and I want them to understand that, yes, that is an aspect of this, but I also want to emphasize that there's a reason they do that. And I think a lot of, like, even in the cookie video, I came into that assuming, or like, I came into that assuming that it was going to just be, oh yeah, cookies were always designed to be tracking nightmare fuel.
Right.
But I was amazed with how wrong I was. And I've never heard anybody tell that story about that it was made by people who really cared about the free and open internet, and they cared about privacy. And it was just taken advantage of. And I thought that was such an interesting point, because that is true with all of this technology. It always sparks from good intentions, usually.
Right. Right.
But I'm sure there are certain exceptions to that.
Sure.
But that's what surprised me the most. And so I always want to present the why this is the case, and like the why from as reasonable as a stance as I can give, Yeah. But I want to show both sides of it in a way that doesn't, I try not to spark fear with it.
Yes.
I really want to avoid fear mongering with anything that I do, because it's so easy to become paranoid. And I think oversimplifying things contributes to that. And so I just embrace the fact that, hey, this is a complicated thing and we're just going to get into it. So that's one of my kind of things. The other one, like the really big pillar, is, can I offer a solution? If I'm presenting this thing that is nightmare fuel, privacy policy stuff, and I just say, hey, here's this terrible thing, bye, I don't like that. I don't like watching videos that do that. That makes me feel uneasy, and I'm just left with this empty fear in my gut after watching these things, And I don't like that. And so a goal for every single video is by the end of it, I want to have offered actionable items for you to either learn more about it yourself, and that's like a minimum,
Right.
or actually give suggestions on what you can do to improve things in your day-to-day life. Like in my original data collection or data breaches video, at the end, I say, hey, here's all this data collection stuff. Here's some ways that you can improve things like email and, password security and things like that.
Yeah.
And I really, truly want to make sure that if I'm presenting an issue, I need to be able to present a solution to it. And if I can't, it's not going to be a video.
Right.
Because it's not worth it to talk about at that point, I think.
Huh.
I'm not a journalist. I'm not there to tell you the scary new thing. Right.
Right.
Again, if we're looking back at it from if we're looking back on it from the perspective of I'm teaching people, I need to be able to offer them the other side of it too.
Right. Of course.
And then the last thing is just empathy. Just always remember that the people that make these tools are people. The people that are receiving this kind of sketchy information, they are people too. And everybody that you've ever interacted with has lived a life just as complex as your own. Maybe not better or worse, but just as complex. And I think it's worth acknowledging that we're all in this together. This is some weird stuff. Life is weird, but it's
Absolutely.
cool. I dig it. So making sure that I'm always presenting information as empathetically as possible. And with patience, of course. That I consider patience a form of empathy.
Right. I think that's good. Yeah. In other videos, you mentioned how privacy policies are pretty predatory sometimes. Do you think that is maybe what has influenced you in kind of slipping into a less digital lifestyle? Getting a dumb phone. You took a complete break from the internet for like a week at one point, and what sort of caused that transition? Is it just working in the tech field in general that you just wanted to get away, or what's that?
So the data breach video was the first time I had actually read a privacy policy. And if you do the math, that was a year after I'd switched to a dumb phone.
True.
I had already, and I feel so ashamed in admitting that, but I didn't know. It's one of those things that working in tech, it never crossed my mind for some reason.
Right.
And I my original tech job was working at Geek Squad at Best Buy.
Right.
And it was always pushed as this like, oh, we're here to sell. Right. And of course, it's a giant corporation. Of course, that's the case. But being my first tech job, that really like just rang it in my head that whatever, it's a big long honking policy. Don't worry about it. But I really wish I knew what I knew now. But
yes.
I mean, that's hindsight, right?
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's also why I go so aggressively in the direction that I do of just like, hey, I am willing to admit that I was 1,000% wrong in ignoring this. And I'm so sorry to those that like I misled because of that. But I want to do it right. Here's what I know now.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that actually got me to switch, I say it in a couple of my videos now, but I say that it was a group text that made me do it because I really don't like group text.
Oh, right.
And I mean, a lot of that it just has to do with just the anxiety of notifications. And I have gotten dozens of really, really reasonable comments saying, why don't you just turn off notifications? I don't know. I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Like, that's truly what it comes down to is I needed to do the extreme. It was just the right move for me because I wasn't able to think about the other stuff. I didn't know about the black and white mode when I switched. That probably would have been a really helpful thing.
Right.
Phones are getting a lot easier to like dumb down, like getting rid of items on your home screen and stuff like that. And that's wonderful. And I think that most people who are curious to like reduce their phone usage should stick to what exists on your phone already, right? Don't pay for some app. Don't, get some subscription that's going to make you detox from the internet. That's not how that works. Like, just set your phone to black and white mode and get rid of the icons on your home screen and just see how that works. I think that's a really good starting point. But I think the thing that truly made me switch away from like technology and get a little paranoid, if you will, was working in tech. It was seeing firsthand, time and time again, how, I don't mean this, like, obviously I try to enter everything with empathy.
Of course. But
I was always consistently blown away with how dumb some of these systems engineers were. Right. And like, it was one of those things that like, it never fazed me at first when I was working in like smaller businesses or smaller government entities, because it's like, oh, these are just the people that I'm interacting with day to day. Of course, there's going to be some boxes of rocks out there. But when I started working for a bigger company and I started working in their support and seeing some of these other and interacting with a lot of other big businesses, I started to realize, oh, this is like the whole thing. Oh no.
Right.
I think I need to start taking my privacy more seriously because it was like an actual genuine concern based on my experience. Like, oh, and this is how I have phrased it many, many times. Mm-hmm. I realized in those moments that everybody that does like this kind of job working with these high-end security systems and stuff like that, there are absolutely some brilliant people out there. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not going to deny that whatsoever. And there are a lot of really skilled people, and even amongst the people that I'm calling dumb are brilliant in many, many other ways, even within tech. Right. It's usually just like little things like, oh, I just want to disable the security setting for a minute so I can do this other thing. It's like, no, don't do that. Please. Oh my God, don't do that.
Yeah, of course.
And it made me realize that everybody that works in this industry is potentially as stupid as I am. And
right.
Because there was, I just admitted it. I had never read a privacy policy up until that point, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I had never questioned this entire side of this industry that maybe I should have.
Yeah, that's sort of what I've expected. I've heard that a lot from many people that have worked in tech, that's what caused them to get out of tech. You hear about tech bros are the guys with like, Google Home. They have, they're completely stuck in the Apple ecosystem, Google ecosystem. Yep. And then you hear about a guy that works in tech. He's like, yeah, I use Linux and I never go on the internet ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I one of the early things after I had switched away that I had heard about, there was some research project that had revealed that using AI, you could map a person's physical location, like actually like get like a 3D scan of where they physically are standing in a house just using Wi-Fi bouncing around the place.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
And I was like, I hate that that's going to become a product soon.
Yes.
Because again, this was a research thing, and it was mere months later that there was a smart home thing created specifically for that. And that was one of those ones that just made me go, there's a lot of potential for that to be horribly abused.
Yes.
The first thing that came to mind was child abuse cases. That is a part of the, I've interacted with a lot of people that have worked in like supporting that industry.
Right.
And not supporting child abuse, but supporting
yes, of course,
the ceasing of it.
yes.
Obviously. And hearing the things that I've heard, it's not unreasonable to assume that could be absolutely abused. I mean, even domestic abuse situations. I mean, that is nightmare fuel for that kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like that. And again, it was like little things like that just started adding up. And my own personal experience and seeing kind of the backside of it. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't great. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
But I also like struggled for years to articulate my concerns with family members, especially. It's something that like I've even mentioned this in videos, like talking about my concerns with data collection have only made sense as soon as I scripted them. As soon as I wrote it down for a video and I really sat down and reviewed everything and was able to articulate my thoughts. And only then did it start to click with some of my family members. My mom texted me today saying that she was reading the Walmart privacy policy with her husband.
Wow.
Which she has never done that before. She's
Yeah.
never done that with any service, and only recently, because of the videos I've been making, she has been inspired to actually be informed with her purchases.
Nice.
And that is the greatest joy in the world for me at this point. I mean, just getting through to somebody with this, it was such a... it didn't matter who it was, but I'm even more thrilled it was my mom,
Right.
Because I have intentionally had her review all of the scripts for these videos because she's the kind of person I want to understand this stuff,
Right.
And now that she's starting to understand it, I need to find somebody else. But you know what I mean? That was always the goal, is to make it easy to understand. And I'm so thrilled that it's finally clicking when I slow down and kind of assess every angle to it, acknowledge why people buy it, acknowledge why the company makes it in the first place, and then acknowledge the flaws that can be exploited with that, whether it be from the company itself or through data breaches or whatever.
Right. One thing I wanted to really ask you about, I've been excited to ask about, is your visuals. As I hear it, your creative process is constantly changing. You're constantly improving your style. What does your creative process look like right now, and where do you see it going in the future?
That's a really solid question, honestly.
Thank you.
It is funny. It is always changing. With each video, there's a new thing that gets wedged into the workflow that I've never done before. With the, let's see, the most previous video would have been the one about dread. And what if you can't reject convenience?
Yes.
That one came with some new challenges in that I was testing like some of the rendering limits. It's something that most people visually wouldn't notice whatsoever. But it all kind of had to do with like some of the technology on the back end. I have been using a custom script to render just the changed frames. But since in my couple last videos, there's like the sun moving in the background accurately, I've had to like render more frames as a result of that for it to look smooth. I think the video of Where It Won't Take Sponsors was the first one that I did that, and it's pretty choppy in my opinion. I set a minimum of like 100 frames between each update. So if there wasn't a change in frames within 100 frames, then it would just generate one. The problem was that 100 frames is definitely noticeable for the sun to be moving.
Right.
There's another thing that I just thought about like 3 days ago that I'm kind of beating myself up over. I've been rendering at 30 frames a second this entire time, which is adding unnecessary frames. I can save 6 frames per second by just rendering it at 24 frames per second
Right,
instead.
of course.
And I'm like, oh my God, like those little things, right? Like I'm constantly figuring out how to re-optimize and stuff like that. And even like with research, I mean, there was a video, let me find the guy's channel really quick. I want to make sure I'm shouting out the right people.
Sure.
Oh yeah, Jay the Dev Guy. Here we go.
Oh, I love that guy.
Yeah, Jay the Dev Guy recently published a video about the application Obsidian, which is used for like note taking and stuff. I had never heard of this tool before. And I'm already in that like niche of like, I want to do all of this nonsense by myself. I'm a Linux guy. I'm a Blender user, obviously. Like, I love to punish myself, clearly. So seeing this, I was like, ooh, that looks perfect. Because up until this point, all of my scripts have been written in the equivalent of a Google Doc. I've been using Proton Drive. But it basically works the same as Google Drive. So all of my research notes were on like a single giant page, and it was always really difficult to parse through when I was writing the outline and then writing the script from there. And so when he showed this video where like you could make like links to things that you need to research and stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is game changer. And my upcoming video is done entirely using Obsidian, and I think it clearly shows. I was able to dive significantly deeper into topics that I was curious about, with a particular video. I'm not afraid to talk about it a little bit since the script is actually written now.
Yes, that's awesome.
So yeah, I think that the next video that I publish is going to be like really clear as to like the advantage to constantly be willing to change, and try new things. Because yeah, that absolutely threw a wedge in like how I write stuff, but it was clearly for the better. Even visually, the next video, I've have a couple things planned out that were new challenges all on their own,
Interesting. That's amazing. I know we are potentially re-recording this part just because of how much your process changes and how many new ideas you're always coming up with.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, sorry, that was a typo.
Yeah, no, for clarity, I had talked about this entire video that I was like in the middle of researching, and while I was researching that, I started researching another video, and that video ended up overtaking the original one, and it was just like, nope, I'm actually not doing that one anymore. We need to redo this. So for context, that's what's going on here.
Yeah. But it's always great to talk again. This is really good to get some extra info out of you.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite machine and why?
Ooh, God, that's an amazing question.
Oh, thanks.
Okay, so hear me out. 1950s, 60s, 70s rocketry.
Ooh.
There is something to those beefy machines that they built back then that they just spark so much curiosity out of me. I'm looking at a Saturn V model right now, and I absolutely am obsessed. I visited some friends out of town recently, and we went to a missile museum, and they had the Titan II missile in a silo that you could like look at and everything. And I've never seen anything like it. It was so cool. And that's of that era. And
right.
It's just this really chunky, and I don't know, it's got a vibe to it. I like it. Obviously the Titan II missile was not an amazing vibe.
Of course.
But I'm really good at overlooking that.
That's good.
Yeah, I think older rocketry is really interesting. There's just so much to it, There's so much history that I think is so interesting. And I haven't been keeping up with rocketry as much lately. Something capitalism. I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah. I mean, I grew up watching the space shuttle launches and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I've always had a curiosity for space, and I think those are so interesting to me. I can watch an explainer video on how the F1 engine works for an hour with no question. I love that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. I definitely get what you mean with that. There's so many engineering videos that will go into, the depths about how each different engine works for, they'll go on for hours, and, anytime there's engineering involved, I'm like happy to watch that video.
I have an amazing channel recommendation.
I would love to hear it.
BPS Space makes, he does model rocketry, but like he goes all in like crazy full blown engineering mode. He talks about like how rocket propellant is made, how I've never seen anything like it. He's also a musician. And
Oh, really?
I love his music, which most people don't know. But I think his music is fire. It's in all of his videos, and it's so good. The video that clicks the best for that music is his video on how he made a hot glue rocket. The music in that video is incredible, and I love it.
Yeah, I just checked.
That's an amazing channel.
Yeah, I actually have seen a couple of this guy's things, and they were really cool. His little model rockets and stuff, and yeah, I am not subscribed for some reason.
Get on that.
Yeah.
He also has a personal channel, Joe Barnard, that's his name, where recently he tested the idea of, can you get rid of smells by putting it in a vacuum? And the answer is yes, and I was amazed by that.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'll have to check
video.
that out too. That's amazing. Thank you for the recommendation. That's really good.
Absolutely. Happy to shout out a small channel like that with only a couple million subscribers, you know.
You'll see them shoot up in a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we have a bit of a deeper question here that, answer however you like, absolutely. But do you think in the future, robots, biomechanisms that are ingrained with, maybe AI or something could truly be alive or have a soul? Like, what do you think it might mean to be real in that sense?
This is a really fun question for me specifically.
Good.
I've been relatively open about this. I don't think I've ever officially said it on my channel though, but I have schizoaffective disorder. And so I have, in the past, struggled quite a bit with the concept of reality.
Right.
And years and years and years of therapy and medication and more therapy have helped me kind of learn how to cope with all of that. But it's interesting because I think I actually have a unique perspective because of all of the years and years of therapy and, actually having this like inherent wants to be detached from reality.
Yes.
I don't know that I want to, you know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
It's a feature, not a bug. But that's a really good question.
Thank you.
The thing that makes me feel alive is, like a lot of it is like physical sensation related, and a lot of this comes from grounding techniques,
Yes.
I vividly remember one therapy session, it was snowing, and I was kind of experiencing some of the detachment from reality stuff. And he said, "Hey, let's go on a walk," my therapist. And I said, "Okay." And so we went outside and it was cold as hell, right? We get to a certain point and he picks up a snowball and he says, "Hold out your hands." I said, "Okay." And he puts it in my hands and he squeezes my hands together and it starts to hurt, right? And he said, "Does this feel real?" It was exactly what I needed to hear. And I fully recognize that that's insane for some people, but it was exactly, we'd been working together with a while and he knew that would work.
Right.
But it was like, yeah, that hurts. It's like, it's uncomfortable. And he says, "Describe it in like incredible detail to me. Like, where do you feel it? How does it, like, what are you experiencing right now with this cold snow in your hand?" And it clicked so good in my brain of like, life is the experience, and if I'm experiencing it, it is real. Right. And I think that even has fallen true in how we feel about things. If you are feeling it, your feelings are real. Right. Not necessarily to say that they're based on facts or anything.
Right.
but like, if you are angry about a thing, that's valid. That's a reasonable thing to be experiencing, and stuff like that. I think that it's worth acknowledging that people's reactions to things are real, and you need to meet them where they are. Right. And yeah, that moment with the snow in my hands really burned into my brain because it really helped click a lot of the other grounding techniques, like tapping your fingers or counting the amount of squares in a room or listening to music. One of my best coping skills, not skills, I don't want to call it that, techniques, there we go,
There you go.
is I have a playlist on my iPod called So You're Having a Panic Attack. And it is designed specifically to, get me to calm down, right? It starts off with very high energy, loud pop punk music, just try to have it match where I'm at, match the anxiety, right? And then it starts to slow down throughout the course of this playlist. And that's the goal of it, is to meet me where I am and then guide me back down, right? And that doesn't work for everybody. I know that, but it's worked really well for me. And yeah, I think because of a lot of the experiences that I've had, I can't know what a computer experiences.
Right.
That's because I can't know what you've experienced, but I could acknowledge that you've experienced complexities, again, kind of getting back to that whole, every single person you've interacted with has lived just as a complex of a life as you, right? And I think to rob those experiences by claiming none of it's real is unfun. It kind of ruins life a little bit.
Right, right.
So I don't know where AI falls into this. I don't like that idea. My gut reaction is,
Yes, yeah.
But I'm also, willing to say that I don't know. And I'm willing to be wrong,
Nice. Definitely a very unique answer from everyone that we've asked. I really appreciate that perspective that you're willing to share with us. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I did want to ask something a little off the rails of what we typically ask. But I understand you're a bit of a music enjoyer. Do you happen to have any album recommendations, song recommendations?
I should have been prepared for this because I knew this was coming. Let's see. We got Blue Weekend by Wolf Alice. Anything by Wolf Alice is fantastic. You cannot go wrong with that artist.
Wow.
Same with Pixie. I honestly love everything that she produces. It's so good. The Beths, also just banger artists. Family Obligation is a smaller artist that I found a little while ago. They're kind of like a garage band based out of San Diego, I think. I really love what they got going on.
Interesting.
Phoebe Bridgers is on there, obviously. Yeah, okay. I don't have it out. I don't actually have it on there. But I know I bought it on Bandcamp. Support small artists, everybody. So that first album is the one that I got. But it's basically French punk rock. And I love the sound of it. I am obsessed with it. I can't get enough of it. I also have just finished watching the anime Bocchi the Rock.
Ooh, yes.
Which was fantastic. And I actually bought the physical CD. I found a guy on eBay that was selling one. And so I've been listening to the soundtrack of that first season a lot, which is lovely. I really love the music that they put into that show.
That's really good. Yeah, they had some really good, well-played music for that show. I saw it as well.
I'm upset. I think that one, it's funny. I've watched a couple of really good shows recently. And it's really hard to identify which one I preferred more, but Bocchi just hit such a special place in my heart.
Absolutely.
Talking about anxiety and its love for music. And it was just this show was made for me.
Yeah, that came out to, really good reception. And, I think it's pretty much deserved for that show. That one went over really well.
I absolutely agree. I mean, there's this one sequence. It's towards the end, but it's it's a 5-second bit where Bocchi changes art styles into a 3D render.
I remember,
and it looks like the workspace view, and she gets thrown into a pile of cubes, and I'm like, and it's clearly Blender, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I literally shouted this show was literally made for me.
It's so funny. Yeah, something about that scene, that's actually a Undertale reference.
明日のライブが今から想像できる。
So I have overheard that word got around that a little birdie on the grapevine told me potentially that you like plants. Do you care to speak on these rumors at all?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I love plants. I I truly can't get enough of them. So I'll give you a little backstory as to how I think I got into them.
Sure.
I grew up a majority of my life not knowing this information. In fact, I don't think I actually realized it until I probably didn't the seeds weren't planted, if you will, until 2017. And it wasn't until 2020 that I actually tried it.
Oh, I see.
But actually, it's probably 2021 now that I'm thinking about it.
Nice.
But in 2017, there was this dude who was renting. He basically had like a guest house in his backyard. And it was like really cheap rent. And it was like definitely a little sketchy. But it was honestly really cool because he had this beautiful garden going up to it. I mean, you would walk through and you would see flowers and all kinds of, I don't know what the plants were because at the time I didn't know, but he had, a tomato garden. He had all kinds of stuff growing all throughout this big yard walking up to this place. So every day leaving my house and every day coming back home from work, I would just be surrounded by nature. And this old guy that just loved his plants more than anything in the world, right?
Nice.
And he was a really funny guy. He would always show me these these really weird stop motion movies from France that were about like aliens that he would find. I mean, he loved talking about aliens and all kinds of weird stuff. I mean, he was he was just one of those kooky guys, an artist. He did a lot of like pottery stuff.
Yes.
He had a kiln in the backyard, it was a really cool guy. And I really did enjoy living there. It was, unfortunately, I left solely because I was going through some mental health stuff and I needed to be living with somebody. I was alone in that place and it just wasn't, unfortunately, what my brain needed at that time. And in 2021, he passed away from cancer that just showed up out of nowhere.
Oh.
And when I went to his celebration of life, it was really cool. He was really involved in the art community in the town that I grew up in.
That's nice.
And he had touched the lives of so many people. And so all of these people showed up to his house, which was the same place that I used to rent from.
Wow.
And it was wonderful to see how many people were there. And I ended up taking a couple plants from that event. They were giving them out.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
And it's funny because that, it was an aloe vera plant and I killed it immediately.
Of course.
But it was interesting because I didn't, I don't know. I thought it was still like an exciting thing. And when I had gotten it, I went to my uncle's house shortly after. And he gave me clippings of a begonia lucerna, a pothos, and a spider plant pup. And
good choices.
Yeah, it's really like, now knowing what I know now, pretty easy plants to kickstart.
Yes,
right?
yes, absolutely.
The begonia maybe being the exception.
Yes.
They are, God, the other
dramatic.
begonia that I got is a nightmare.
Yep. I got two one day and both of them died within a week, so.
Yeah, I'm amazed the one that I've been like limping along is still alive. But the one that my uncle gave me the cutting of, as well as the spider plant and the pothos, they all lived perfectly fine.
Nice.
And I had to propagate all of them, and I eventually put them in soil. And The spider plant was really funny because it got huge.
Wow.
It was shooting off. I mean, there must have been 36 pups shooting off of that thing in one summer. It was nuts. I've never seen anything like it. And this was after about a year of it kind of struggling to be in the pot. So I was really surprised that it just like suddenly, seemingly out of nowhere, was just like, cool, I'm good. And it just blew up. And I have since propagated a ton of those pups, and I'm probably looking at like 5 or 6 of those things right now that are also getting pretty big. And I've propagated the pothos multiple times. I've also started picking up some cheap cuttings from around town. I've found a lady who was selling mini monsteras clippings for like $1.
Nice.
So I picked those up. I got more pothos variety, more philodendron varieties. I got, and I really wanted a monstera. Those big Swiss cheese, the Monstera Deliciosa. This was probably 2 years ago now. And I was looking at the prices of them, and I was like, I am not spending $80 on a plant.
Yeah.
Right. Like for a plant that looks like it's just barely started taking off. Right.
Oh my God.
I was like, nah, this doesn't seem worth it. And so I looked up seeds because I thought maybe I can get seeds for cheaper.
Yeah.
Maybe I can try to grow them from seeds. And it turns out they are definitely cheap. They're expensive for seeds. They're about $1 per seed.
Oh, wow.
But that's a lot cheaper than the full-blown plant.
Of course, yeah.
And so I bought a dozen seeds for $10.
Nice.
And I put like sphagnum moss in like a little container that, had a little heat bed under it. So it was a little humid environment. And every single one of those seeds actually took off.
That is awesome.
And I'm blown away like how many monsteras I have that I got for $10. Like,
wow.
Granted, it took a long time to get to where some of them are at right now.
Sure.
But super worth it. I also pick up like seeds from like trees that are in my around the neighborhood. So I have a couple trees from that, which I'm amazed by. Yeah, I don't have a ton of variety of plants right now, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But the ones that I do have, I love them so much, We're moving in a couple days, and I've propagated a bunch of the pothos like yesterday. I just put them in water just so if I accidentally kill one of the plants in the move, it's fine.
Yes,
right?
you still have some.
That's kind of my logic with the plants when I started getting all of the spider plant pups was, I'm going to duplicate every single plant that I have as many times as I can so that if one of them dies, I don't feel bad. Right. And it's funny because the original one that gave me all those pups, that spider plant, I did kill in my last move.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, see, I'm glad I duplicated it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
It was the only plant that suffered from that move.
Wow.
But yeah, I also did a garden in the backyard that I definitely wasn't supposed to do. And I grew a ton of tomatoes, pumpkin. I had zucchini at one point, but it started taking over everything, so I cut it down. I've done strawberries. I've done a lot of flowers of various kinds. I've done a ton of potatoes. I love potatoes. They're easy.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm way into plants. I've been like recently getting into like some of the biological history of some of these plants, and I recently learned that flowers on the scale of plants are relatively new, which I thought was really interesting.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they are from around the era of the dinosaurs, a little bit more recent than that. And I was like, that's really interesting to think about. And I guess it was because of the way that plants would pollinate before were more similar to like how trees do, where they just shake a bunch, right?
Right. Yes, of course.
And the wind would pick it up. But as bugs and stuff started crawling around all over everything, some plants evolved to recognize that, bugs can be good pollinator, things. And it's interesting because plants evolve substantially faster than like anything else.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I mean, thinking about like their lifespan, it certainly makes sense, but
yeah.
And I just thought that it was so interesting that like the fossil records show that it was just like there weren't flowers and then there were flowers.
Yeah. This is more or less our kind of last question. If you could be in your own life, if you could be any machine, what would you be and why? Maybe it ties into a rocket, maybe it's something completely different, but what machine would you be?
Tractor. Because then I'd be on a farm. That just sounds nice. I don't know.
Whoa, that's good. Yeah, people
just being out in the sunshine all day, just hanging out with plants. Yeah, that's where it's at.
Yeah. People always seem to have a gut reaction with that question, and they just know exactly what they want right away, which is always interesting.
Well, because that's what I want to do in real life. I just want to sit in the middle of a field full of plants, just be in the sunshine.
Oh, that's amazing.
Someday.
Yes, yeah. Someday you'll be a tractor. Don't worry.
Don't worry. I'll get there.
Yeah. So, that pretty much brings us to the end. But if there's anything else you'd like to say, any upcoming projects, shout outs, or, even advice for anyone, feel free to let us know any kind of last points you have.
If I had any advice to anybody who wants to like be a creator, learn to embrace the suck. I truly cannot. I can't think of a better way to just learn and grow. And I've heard it phrased 1,000 different ways: embrace the suck, embrace failure, stuff like that.
Right.
I think one of my favorites is don't cringe, kill the part of you that cringes. Like that. It's that kind of idea of like anything that you try for the first time is going to be terrible. Mm-hmm. Always. That is universal truth. Mm-hmm. And that's why I keep all of my old stuff on my channel live. Yes, it has absolutely nothing to do with what I do today.
Right.
But I want people to see that everybody starts somewhere. And with me, it was stick figure animations to copyrighted music, right? If you want to get skillful at anything, embrace the fact that you're going to be terrible at it for a while. And even when you start to get good at it, push yourself to get bad at it again. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like with Blender, I've been using the software for a decade, and there are plenty of things that I have figured out. And I don't want to say I've mastered any of it, but
right.
But I've gotten pretty good at a lot of it. And there is always something else for me to be terrible at. The next thing is geometry nodes. I'm not good at that stuff, but I'm willing to suck at it, and I'm excited to suck at it. Whenever I'm in a creative funk, the thing that gets me out of it is making garbage. It's like just making something that I know is trash and going into it with the mindset of, I just need to make garbage. And I absolutely live by that with creativity and like learning any skill for that matter. Just be willing to suck.
Yeah.
So that's my advice to everybody. I'm going to be doing live streams. Actually, by the time this is published, I will have already been doing live streams.
Nice.
About reading the most entertaining thing I can possibly imagine. And if any of you find this entertaining, you're wrong. We're going to be reading privacy policies. And there's going to be Q&A sessions and stuff like that. So we're going to be doing those once a month. So jump in and say hey.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. Well, Anthony, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm very excited to get to editing this.
Yeah.
For more creator interviews, go to yourmachines.com. Visit, stay a while, explore a variety of fine art made by machines just like yourself. Get a cybernetic implant. Become a machine head. Let your mechanisms keep you alive. We'll see you soon.